points. I've done several of these presentations over the last couple of weeks, and you might never be caught, but I apologize in advance. And so, is there a way we can get the monitors on? While you work on that, I'll just introduce myself to you a little bit more, just so you can understand who I am and what my background and experience is in law enforcement over the years. And so, again, my name is Guy Gomez, and I'm the DEA St. Louis Field Division's Community Outreach Specialist. My area of responsibility is the whole state of Missouri, the whole state of Kansas, and the whole state and the southern portion of Illinois. I've been in law enforcement for about 30 years in both public and private sectors, and I have investigated everything from simple traffic stops up to include murder. And during my experience in law enforcement, I've also investigated the manufacturing of drugs, the trafficking of drugs, the distribution and sales and possession of drugs, and also being under the influence. And during my career in law enforcement in Southern California, the Los Angeles area, I've also experienced some of my fellow police officers, men and women, start suffering with undiagnosed PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and they became homicidal, suicidal, and they wanted to harm themselves and some of their family members and friends. And so I felt a calling to come back or to do something about it. And so God sent me back to school, and He had me earn my master's degree in clinical psychology. Now, when I grew up, I never thought I was going to be a police officer. I never thought I was going to work for the DEA, and I certainly didn't think I was going to become a mental health therapist. But that's what His plan for me was. And so I accepted the calling. I went back to school, earned my master's degree, and I started treating different people, and I thought it was just going to be law enforcement, but it wound up turning into combat veterans, nurses, teachers, people that just had everyday jobs, suffering with all different kinds of mental traumas, mental stressors, and just living an everyday life. And so I saw a lot of people also start struggling with substance use and abuse because of those traumas and those stressors. And so that makes us a little bit more susceptible or at risk to substance use and abuse, and unfortunately there's experimentation that goes along with it. And today I want to share with you where these drugs are coming from and why they're so dangerous and risky. So I want to talk to you about where these drugs are coming from, how they're being manufactured, how they're being smuggled into this country, how they're trafficked into this country, and then some of the impacts of the neuroscience of addiction that these drugs have on us and how our brain works with them. So I'm going to get into this and explain to you a little bit about what DEA does. So DEA has one primary mission, and that is law enforcement, where our special agents go after the baddest of the bad, the worst of the worst, all over the world. They attack the supply of the drugs throughout the United States. We do this within the United States, and we also do it outside of the United States. You can see here, this is the DEA footprint all over the world. So we have offices all over the world. Why do we have offices all over the world? Well, it's because we want to stop the drugs from being manufactured and trafficked into the United States before they get here. However, and unfortunately, they do arrive in the United States. So we have offices all over the country, and it's represented by these many dots that we see across the country. And the St. Louis Division, again, covers the states of Missouri, Kansas, and southern Illinois. That's my area of responsibility. We have over 100 agents that work for us, plus we have task force officers. Task force officers are police officers that are from your local communities that are on loan to the DEA. They're federally deputized as federal agents, and they help subsidize about 60% of what DEA does in this division. We wouldn't be able to do the work that we do without your local police. And so when DEA arrested El Chapo, he was asked, what's it going to take for the drug cartels in Mexico to stop smuggling drugs into the United States? And he said, when there's no more demand, there's no more supply. So the supply is what our enforcement goes after. The demand for these types of drugs is what I do. We're not going to, law enforcement will not be able to arrest our way out of this epidemic. And we don't don't want to. That's a lot of people that we would have to go and arrest. And arrest isn't going to change mentality. It's not going to change the way that we think and what we believe and what we experience out in the world. And so my job is to reduce the demand for these types of drugs, and we call that demand reduction. Now let's get into one of the drugs that is the leading cause of drug overdose in this country. Fentanyl. Can anybody raise your hand if you've heard of fentanyl? Keep your hands raised if you have seen fentanyl for yourself, or you know somebody, or you have a family member that has used medicinal fentanyl, like pharmaceutical fentanyl that comes from a doctor. Me too. Okay. And what about fake fentanyl? Raise your hand if you or you know somebody, or you know somebody else, like third hand, has experienced something with fake fentanyl. And for those of you who are brave, and you don't have to raise your hand, but I'm going to ask if you'd like to, raise your hand if you know somebody who has suffered from a fentanyl poisoning overdose or overdose death. Me too. Thank you. Fentanyl is hitting our country, it's hitting our communities, it's hitting your neighborhoods as well. But what is it? Fentanyl is an opioid. It's a synthetic opioid. That means that it's man-made. It comes from, heroin was produced from a poppy plant many years ago, like hundreds and maybe even thousands of years ago. And it's a plant. It takes a lot of land to grow. It takes a lot of water. It takes farmers. It takes time. And then there's a process to harvest the plants, and there's a process to harvest the active ingredient within the poppy plant to extract what we would later manufacture into morphine, which is a legal drug that's used for medicinal purposes. Well, it takes a lot of time to do that, and so in the 1950s, fentanyl was created, and fentanyl was man-made. It does not grow from the ground. It's all just chemical compounds. They put it together, and they were originally using it for people that were suffering from end-of-life care due to cancer. Well, they progressed using that into that drug, the medicinal fentanyl. They progressed it into using it and applying it towards like major injuries. So there's somebody in my family who suffered with a major car accident who also had to use fentanyl and oxy, and the doctor had them on and off. But they had to be closely monitored by a doctor and under the care of a doctor face to face every day while she was going through her surgeries and other things. And so it does have to be monitored by a doctor. So where's fake fentanyl coming from? Excuse me. Fake fentanyl is made up of what we call precursors. Precursors are the chemicals that make up the compounds once put together that make up any other kind of drug. So these precursors are being manufactured by organizations in China. These Chinese organizations then sell these precursor chemicals to drug cartels in Mexico. The Mexican drug cartels hire scientists, real scientists, to put these compounds together and make fake fentanyl. They package them up into kilos. It's called a kilogram, or it's 1 kilo, and 1 kilo is if packaged correctly and tightly enough, it'll be about this size, about 1.5 inches thick, and that 1 kilo equals 2.2 pounds. 1 kilo can kill up to 500,000 people. 1 kilo of pure fentanyl can kill up to 500,000 people. What does that look like here in Missouri? There's about 6 million people that live in Missouri, so it would take 12 kilos. Take about 12 kilos to kill the entire state of Missouri. That could be smuggled in one backpack. Well, here's what the drug cartels are doing while they're manufacturing the kilos. They're also pressing them into fake pills. Has anybody ever heard of an oxy? Raise your hand. An M30. Blue pills, Xanax, Xanabars, Adderall. And we'll talk about those in a minute as well. And so the drug cartels will press these pills smuggle them into the United States, traffic them throughout the United States, sell them, make their profit, and then try to launder their money through different means throughout businesses to try to clean the money so that way they can put it in the banks and just continue to make more and more money. Well, one question that I get sometimes is why are these drug cartels manufacturing pills that kill their customers? And the answer is because they don't care. We're just dollars and cents to them. They just want to make money. And there's 0.2 billion people in the world. The United States has less than 5% of the population of the world. So there's a lot of people out there that they can sell these drugs to as well. There are some people out there too that have taken and used these drugs and gotten high and not overdosed and not die. However, I want to share with you a little bit of information in a few slides that will tell you how dangerous these pills are and that how we're playing Russian roulette with our lives when we use them. So this is just a little map of what I just shared. You can see where these organizations in China sell drugs, these compounds to the drug cartels in Mexico, and they also smuggle them into the United States. This is a footprint of where the two major drug cartels in in Mexico, have a footprint within America. It's the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco cartel. The Jalisco cartel is green and the Sinaloa is yellow. So you can see where they actually start to smuggle drugs from Mexico into the rest of the United States. This is another map of just Mexico, where you can see the Sinaloa cartel in red, the Jalisco cartel in green, and the candy stripe areas are called contested areas, which mean that both of these drug cartels fight over these areas to sell and manufacture and traffic drugs and control the drug routes that go into the United States. This is a little bit, this is a global map of what I just shared as well. The Sinaloa cartel is in red, the Jalisco cartel is in green, and the light blue is both cartels. So you can see how, about geographically speaking, half of the world, the fentanyl drugs that come from Mexico are being affected by just these two drug cartels in Mexico. They have control and footprint all over the world. And what do the statistics look like here in the United States? Over 110,000 people die of a drug overdose every year in the United States. This is as of 2023. And over 67% of those people that died of a drug overdose involved a synthetic opioid, primarily fake fentanyl. So in 2023, the DEA seized enough fake fentanyl to kill every American in the United States. Well, how many people live in the United States? 386 million, there's 332 million people that live in the United States, and we see 386 million doses, fatal doses. That's just what DEA sees. Not any other federal agency, not any other law enforcement agency at the state, county, or local levels. We seize enough fentanyl to kill everybody in the United States and 50 million more people. And that's just what we seized. That doesn't even include what made its way into the communities through by the drug cartels' trafficking efforts. So this is a graph. It's a very important graph because it shows us in the intelligence world how fentanyl is being trafficked just based upon the purity level of the fentanyl. So if you look at the bottom graph, in 2019, there's 15% purity levels of the fentanyl that DEA was seizing here in the St. Louis division. What does that mean? Well, that means that let's just call it 1 kilo of fake fentanyl is produced in Mexico. It's trafficked in the United States. By the time it reaches, and that's 100% fake fentanyl, purity level. And by the time it reaches St. Louis, it was cut so many times, it's called being stepped on, that it reduced its effective amount down to its purity level amount down to 15%. Well, what does stepped on mean? That means every time the drug changes hands in between a sale or in transit, somebody cuts it and replaces it with something that's not fentanyl. These drug cartels are putting other drugs in fake fentanyl pills, or these pills mixing them with other drugs, but then every time it gets stepped on, the drug cartels don't even know what's being put into these pills as well. And so they can put in baking soda, they can put in other types of lethal drugs that could be lethal and certainly addictive, like xylazine. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that towards the end of the presentation. Well, jump forward to 2020, it increased to 17%. 2021 jumped up to 27%. 2022, it jumped up to 38%. So if you look at 2019 to 2022, it more than doubled in its purity. That means that's an indicator that that drug is starting to become saturated in the communities along the trafficking routes to when it comes to Missouri. Now look at 2023, it jumped to 76%. That means it more than doubled in just that 1 year as well. Why is that important? Why is that something that we want to look at? That's because by the time when it leaves Mexico at 100% purity rate and it reaches Missouri, our division, it is not being stepped on as much, which means that it travels a lot farther without other drug cartel or drug dealers cutting it up and adding different types of inert chemicals to it. And it's reaching purity levels that are very, very high. Now, I've been in law enforcement for about 36 years, and some of the cocaine that I would intercept in Los Angeles was about 88%. But that was really close to the border, which means it's not going to get stepped on a lot. For this to reach 76% here in Missouri is significant because that means there's a lot of fentanyl out there in the community in this country. So what is a lethal dose? A lethal dose to an average person is about 2 milligrams of fentanyl, and this is about 2 milligrams of fentanyl that fits on a typical pencil. What does it look like in a pill? Can everybody see the yellow circle in the bottom right-hand corner? Well, if you were to take that circle and make it into a sphere, that would be about 2 milligrams of what was shown on that pencil. And what's in the rest of the pill? We don't know. Whatever the drug cartels want to put in it. And so they're putting other drugs like fentanyl into cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin. I've even seen fentanyl being trafficked or packaged up with marijuana. And so some of my law enforcement experience in Los Angeles, I was in a unit where I was actually intercepting these types of drugs that are being sent through the mail system, opening them up, and seeing cross-contamination of fentanyl even with marijuana. And so out of all the DEA seizures and pills that we've tested, 7 out of 10 pills contain a lethal dose of fentanyl. That's 70% of what we tested. That's a lethal dose of fentanyl. Now that doesn't mean that if you go to a party and somebody has 10 pills in their hand, that you can set 7 aside and think that the remaining 3 are okay. It's not what we're suggesting. We have to believe that every one of these pills has a lethal dose. If we're buying medication or pills from the streets, it's not real. You have to assume that. Those pills are going to be fake. The pills that you're going to get that are real are going to be from a pharmacy or from your doctor. And that's the important key here that we want to share with you. Pharmaceutical grade medication that you get from your pharmacist and or doctor is the good medication. The ones that you buy from the streets or even from maybe a friend or an acquaintance should be considered fake pills. Now here are the 3 types of fake pills that are most commonly faked. It's oxycontin, which is a painkiller, Adderall, which is a stimulant, and it's used for people suffering with ADD or ADHD, and Xanax, which is a benzodiazepine, and it's used for people who suffer with anxiety. Now, why are these pills fake the most? Well, it's suspected because for many, many years, since the mid-90s, oxys were said to be non-addictive when they weren't, and they became highly addictive to where people started seeking them out on the streets because law enforcement started cracking down on the manufacturing, distribution, and overprescribing. And so, same with Adderall, same with Xanax. And the drug dealers caught on to this. They said, hey, the medicine cabinets are drying up with real pills. We're going to manufacture pills because all of us have been conditioned to take these pills because they're okay. We consider them medication. So as our medicine cabinets were drying up, and these real pills were drying up out on the street, meaning their quantity levels were reducing to where people couldn't buy them to abuse them anymore, the drug dealers, the drug cartels started manufacturing these fake pills using fentanyl. And they will put fentanyl in pills that look like Adderall, Xanax, Oxy, or other types of real prescription drugs. So now I'm going to give you a quick midterm. The top two pills, it's the same pill, it's just split. There's just the front side and the back side. And the bottom pill, it's the same pill, but again, the front side and back side. Raise your hand just by looking at this. Raise your hand if you think the top pill is real. Raise your hand if you think the bottom pill is real. Raise your hand if you got it wrong. Look around. Just turn your heads and look around. Everybody got it wrong. I got it wrong too. I got it wrong too. I have 30 years of experience in law enforcement where I've been trained to identify what would be considered a fake pill versus a real pill. And looking at these pills, I got it wrong because the top one's falling apart and the impressions are not made very well. And if you look at the bottom, this is a fake pill that was made by a drug cartel. The impressions are very deep, they're very clean, and it's not falling apart. That's indicative of a real pill. That's how good these drug dealers and drug cartels are getting at pressing pills. One factor that I want to share with you, it's not meant to scare you straight, but it is a scary fact, is that because we got that answer wrong, we could be overdosed, we could not be here later today or tomorrow. There's too many stories out there right now. You're going to hear one later today by Chris about the tragedy that taking these pills can do even just one time. So here's a final example for you. This is a Xanax, the top one, and the bottom one. One of them's real, one of them's fake. So raise your hand if you think the top one's real. Raise your hand if you think the top or bottom one's real. Who got it wrong? Raise your hand. I did too. I did too. One pill can kill. Everybody who raised your hand may not be here later today or tomorrow. And I got it wrong. There is no way that we can look at a pill, not me, not even a doctor who's prescribing these medications, can look at a pill and say whether it's real or not. They have to be tested in the lab. But we can trust those doctors and those pharmacists that are prescribing us those drugs, because we have trusted them. The majority of them, 99.9% of them, are good doctors that do good work. We just have drug cartels that are out there and got people trying to do harm to us, which led us into this epidemic. This is what a medical grade fentanyl laboratory looks like. You can see how scientific it is, how clean it is. There's a lot of science that goes into it, but well maintained and well guarded. This is where drug cartels make their pills, all the drugs that they're putting together to include fentanyl. I've also seen photographs where they would take take 5-gallon buckets that you could buy from Lowe's or Home Depot, and they would throw some fentanyl in there, mix it up with some cutting agent, take a broken broomstick and start stirring it. Well, they could die from just inhaling the powder that would come up out of the bucket, but the drug cartels don't care, because if that person goes down and dies, they just hire another villager to come take their place and start mixing it up. But because they do it that way, and because of what you can see here, there's no quality control in the way that they make their drugs. There's no quality control because they don't care. They just mix it up together, press it into a pill, and hope that it has the desired effect by the people that are going to buy them and use them. However, a lot of these pills have lethal doses in it because of lack of quality control, which leads to what we call chip or chocolate chip cookie effect. Now, who likes chocolate chip cookies? Me too. Costco are my favorite ones because they're big cookies with big chocolate chips. We call it the chocolate chip cookie effect because when we make chocolate chip cookies, there's not a guaranteed chocolate chip in every part of the cookie. Otherwise, it would just be a chocolate cookie. The same thing happens when drug manufacturers or these drug cartels manufacture these fake pills. They don't know how much fentanyl is going into each pill. They don't know if it's a lethal dose or a sublethal dose. They don't even know where it is within the pill, if it's in one half of the pill or the other half of the pill. How many people in here have heard of fentanyl test strips? Raise your hand. They were designed for people that wanted to test their pills because they believed that it would bring awareness that, hey, there's fentanyl in this pill. Well, if they bought this drug on the street, they should already assume that fentanyl is in that pill. However, their mindset might be in thinking in that moment, might try to rationalize, hey, I just want to get some sort of high. They might be addicted, they really don't care, and their mind's not thinking right, which happens to people that are going through withdrawals from these types of drugs, especially the opioid. But the fentanyl test strip doesn't test the whole pill because they don't test the whole pill. The fentanyl test strip only tests whatever the user is using to test. So if they broke off a piece of that pill that has no fentanyl in it, like this little slice of a pill that looks like a piece of pie, they broke that off and tested that, and it'll show 0 fentanyl. But then they put the rest of the pill in their mouth, and if there's a lethal dose in there, one pill can kill. And as I close up, I want to share with you a few slides about what addiction looks like, and I want to show you how fentanyl works on the body along with Narcan or naloxone. Has anybody ever heard of Narcan? Okay. Naloxone is the other name for Narcan. Narcan is just a brand name. But we have about billions of neural synapses in our brains. And one of them is a transmitter, one of them is a receptor. And so the image on the left, that is a transmitter. The gap in between is called the synapses gap, and the portion on the right is called the receptor. So the fentanyl, when it's ingested, will travel down the neural synapses transmitter. It'll be released by the transmitter into the synapses gap, cross the gap, and land into opioid receptors on the receptor side. What the opioid does is it blocks the signals that govern our respiratory system. So when it blocks the signal, we start going into what's called respiratory depression. That means our breaths per minute start to decrease. We usually have about 9 to 11 respirations a minute. They'll start to slowly decrease. 7, 8, 7, 6, 3, 2, 1, and then it's done. And we go into cardiac arrest, and that's how we die. But if somebody is there with Narcan, they can administer Narcan to you. Now, Narcan is sometimes referred to as a life-saving drug, and it is not. It is a life-extending drug. It will only help you as much as it can until you get to medical help. It should not be used as a cure-all. Over 70% of the pills that we're testing has fake fentanyl in it. So we have to treat this as every pill has fentanyl in it because we want to be able to save our lives. There's a drug that's out there called xylazine. It's a sedative. It's called Tranquil or Trank. Who's ever heard of Trank? It's a sedative. It is not an opioid. It's not used for human consumption. It's an animal sedative. When humans consume it, it's highly addictive and it causes necrosis, meaning dying of the flesh, dying of the skin, and there's no treatment for it other than to cut off the dead flesh and the dead skin. It's highly addictive. They use it. The drug cartels combine it with fentanyl to increase the high and make the high last a lot longer. However, when you go home, YouTube, Philadelphia, xylazine, and you're going to see the zombie land that is the United States epicenter for the Trank and fentanyl epidemic. They're highly addicted. They walk around like this. Dozens of them. You'll see them in the street. And there's a 1-hour documentary that shows you what it really looks like living with somebody who suffers with this type of addiction and how they don't want to be addicted to it, but they would withdrawal symptoms are so bad that they just continue to use and use and use until, unfortunately, they die. There's another drug that's out there called nitazene. It's 10 times more potent than fentanyl. It was also made in the 1950s. It was so potent that it's not used for immediate consumption because they can't get the dosage right, so they park it on a shelf. The drug cartels got a hold of this recipe, and then they started manufacturing it to try to make a profit because you can make less of it and make more money. However, this is also being put into pills nowadays as well. So I bring this information to you today as I close up here. We need your help. We need you to be that force multiplier in your community. We need you to be an advocate for yourself. We need you to be an advocate for your friends, the ones that you're sitting next to right now. Every the friends that you chose to sit next to today, or hang out with after school, or play a sport with, or go home and just play video games, or read a book, or hang out in the backyard, or whatever it is that you do with your friends. We want you to advocate to them. We want you to go home and talk to your parents about what you've learned here today. And I would encourage you to do a little bit more research in what fentanyl is and what the opioid epidemic is. Our website is dea.gov/onepill. And I talked to one of your school counselors here that said that they will look at trying to disseminate some of that information that is relevant for your age group and your class. 3 things that I want to leave you here with today. Never take medicine that wasn't prescribed to you by your own doctor. Talk to your family and friends about the dangers of buying drugs online. I'm not talking about the legitimate pharmaceuticals that your doctor might send you or your pharmacist. And spread the word that one pill can kill. One pill can kill. One pill can kill. The reason why is because one pill is all it may take to end your life. One choice is all you may have that could end your life. And one life is all we can. And so I thank you for your time, and I'll answer some questions later if we have time. Thank you.
Good morning, Billikens. How are you guys doing today? Good. Well, my name is Chris, as you know, and I am really grateful for the opportunity to be in front of you today. I am grateful for your attention and how this school, your community, is making this a priority. I have 2 important disclaimers I should start with. First of all, first one is I have no doubt there are people in this room that are struggling. And this is a very tricky topic to talk about. Struggling with maybe academics, performing on the athletic field, struggling with depression, anxiety, relationships, struggling with identity, who you're going to be when you grow up, what college you want to go to. I get it. It's okay to not be okay. Life is all about struggle. We struggle when we learn to walk and talk, and it's going to be a struggle to learn to be an adult. And that's when you hear from the older guys, it's a struggle to be an adult and stay an adult. As for those here, I know that a drug-related incident has impacted some of you, whether close or distant. It may have brought harms or even death. And my heart goes out to you and your family in your struggle. Please know I want to respect your journey, and my heart is with you. But believe me when I say this, when we talk about this, we break through those barriers of stigma, and we can actually make the world a better place. I believe we're all in this together. Second disclaimer, guys, this is not easy for me. This is hard. Because I'm about to share a very personal accounting, a very personal story of someone I care deeply about and I love. And, you know, grief has its schedule. And sometimes it surfaces on its own, and it's not easy. So I need your help. I'd like to ask for your patience. I'm used to it. It happens, but it passes. However, I'm really eager to share what I've learned. I've learned a lot, and I've no doubt this is information I think you're going to find very valuable, and information I think you may consider one of the most important lessons you're going to hear since you're here at this school, if not the most important lesson. As you know, I'm from Sacramento. I'm a Catholic kiddo. I went to an all-boys Catholic high school in Sacramento, and I did join the military. I retired after about 22, 25 years, and I flew the F-15E Strike Eagle, and I had a rather adventurous career. But I also had a lot of struggle with it. And I've seen adversity. I've been in front of an opposition force over the hostile skies of the Balkans in the 90s, and also over the skies of Iraq and Afghanistan, and those were not easy days. In that time, while I was deployed, far from family, friends, and comfort, I lost way too many friends doing the JOB. Those gentlemen and women didn't come home. And each one of those losses hurt me and our community, brothers and sisters in arms, and I struggle with PTSD type of effects from that. But what I'm here to talk to you guys about is truly a whole nother level. This is even more impactful and significant. So I'm very eager to talk about what we've learned. So this is my youngest of three, Zach. As you know, he was a senior in high school. It was at in Rockland, California, at Whitney High School, just outside of Sacramento area, kind of towards Lake Tahoe area. Before I talk about how Zach died and what happened, however, I think it's only fair to talk about how he lived. So I'm going to let Zach introduce himself. So this young man is very adventurous. He is talented, as you can tell. We estimate he had recorded this about 6 weeks before he died. We didn't know he did it. And we found it a few days afterwards on his cell phone. Zach is quite successful throughout all aspects of schooling. He was a bona fide straight A student. He got a 1550 on the SAT at the beginning of his junior year. Most of his end of the year AP exams were 5s. He got a couple 4s and was just a stellar academician. He was very cerebral. But he also loved sports. He was a recognized multi-sport athlete. He was very, very good. His favorite teams were soccer, and he loved track and field. Hurdles was one of his interesting sports. His story of hurdling is similar to the story of Louis Tamperini, who was featured in Laura Hildebrand's book, Unbroken, where every track meet Zach bested his own times, and eventually caught attention, and it led him to be the only student in the school of 2000 to make it to the San Joaquin CIF sectionals, and he got another PR on that event as well. It's very successful athletically. He loved community service. He was very active in scouting. He was in the middle of working in his Eagle project and was ready and eager to finish making the last rank of Eagle. And in his junior year, about a year before he died, he stepped out of his comfort zone. There's some really funny stories about this. He tried to audition for a school musical production. He's never done that before. The play was called High School Musical. You've seen the movie. And he landed the lead role of Troy Bolton. So the same story of Zac Efron, who played in the movie. If you've seen the movie, that's what Zac did. And he learned to play 4 musical instruments all by himself. He didn't take lessons. He never took piano lessons. And as I mentioned last night, our dog Jade never took voice lessons either. So very talented family, and it was awesome to have him around. All these accomplishments, the things that I really admire him most about him is his desire, his interest, his propensity to help his friends. He was always willing to help his buddies, help them improve their SAT scores, help them better the end of the year AP exams. After soccer practice multiple times, I've seen him multiple times, I was his coach, he would stay after practice to work speed drills with his other track friends to help them with their speed time and other projects. And he really liked that. And when later, after he died, we got cards, letters, banners, there was testimonies from these students I'd never even heard of who said, here's how your son helped me. And it's really inspiring for me, and I feel like what helps me with my grief journey is to continue his legacy of helping others. So it is my hope that he can help some of you today, if not more than some. So let's get into the hard part and what actually happened. Now, keep in mind, COVID lockdown was about 4 years ago. And this tragedy happened at the very end of our COVID lockdown. Our mall is considered the second largest mall in Northern California. It's called the Galleria Mall, and it had opened up around the middle of December. And it was the first public place to allow gathering, after they lifted the COVID restrictions. And Zac I remember he came to talk to me, and he was thrilled to say, hey, we're finally able to go to the mall. And he mentioned, we're excited, so this is the first place we can gather. We've been living as seniors, secluded, and now we can finally hang out and just live life like we thought we would as seniors in high school. And that made sense, and it seemed normal and healthy. The mall was full of middle school and high school kids. But what Zac and his friends, what I didn't understand, is there were other people also at the mall who were intentionally and willingly marketing and selling products that had fentanyl in it. And that's something we didn't know. So Zac was at the mall with his buddies, hanging out, and they were approached by a dealer through Snapchat. The features on Snapchat this dealer exploited were the geotagging feature, the quick ad feature, and the Snap Store feature, based on what the investigators shared with us. This is a stranger these guys didn't know, and he approached them, talked to them. The interaction lasted about 2 minutes, because that's what the surveillance video at the mall showed. And they had a discussion. And from what we understand, having talked to Zac's friends and what the investigators found out, is that the dealer offered pretty much everything that you can think of available to them. The conversation went down the path of prescription pills. Do you need pain management? Do you want to save high? Do you want to manage anxiety? Do you want to focus better on finals for next semester? And why Zac and his friends bought these pills, they've never done it before. And why they did it, I don't know. I think I'll never know. Maybe it is for a safe hire. One of the boys was thinking they work out a lot because they're very athletic. And as an alternative to creatine, if we take a Percocet, it could be a way to not feel the pain of push-ups and pull-ups, and we can get bigger muscles. Zac and his friends bought what they were told was Percocet. For those who don't know, Percocet is a prescription you get from your doctor that treats for mild to moderate pain, in some cases even stronger than that. A common application might be a dentist would give Percocet to their patients if they're having oral surgery, to have braces and things like that. And a young man thinking, well, if I take this Percocet and then I'll feel the pain of a workout and I get bigger muscles, well, let me give that a shot. Why not? Let's try it. What they were sold instead was a fake pill made of fentanyl. I'm going to repeat that. fake pill made of fentanyl. This was not a Percocet. It was advertised as one, but it was not. Okay, so December 26th, after Christmas, Zach was with family, and he went and hang out with his friends, went to the mall with his friends. Afterwards, he had dinner with his girlfriend. Zach had just gotten his driver's license a few months earlier, and was nervous about him driving. He's the newest driver in our family. He always was an excellent driver. He came home before curfew. We watched a Christmas movie Saturday night, and on Sunday, December 27th, I went to check on him, and I went to his room. And I walked in, and it appeared that he was asleep at his desk in front of his computer, just had his head resting on his arm. And I thought he may have been playing Minecraft all night with his buddies, because they did that a lot during COVID, and just fell asleep. But as I approached him, I sensed a void. I could tell there was something horrifically wrong, and he wasn't breathing. In my 25-year involvement in the military, we learned a lot about CPR, first aid, buddy care, and my training just kicked in, and I started CPR right away. I alerted my other son, Sam, Zach's older brother. Sam was a senior in college, and he tried to help me. He called 911, med tech showed up, police, sheriff, firemen, first responders. There were around 7 or 8 men in Zach's room, and we tried everything. I did lose temporal awareness, but I think it was around a half hour. We tried our best. There's a lot of detail in that scene, but that scene was the worst experience of my life. And as a result, I am broken. I was destroyed. I cannot imagine a worse suffering. As you can understand, losing a child is at the top of any parent's grief hierarchy, but when you witness your other children suffer and you can't do anything to stop that, it kind of like adds a layer of PTSD to it. Then there's the story of Zach's girlfriend and his soccer friends and his track friends and his cast friends and his scout friends. All of us were impacted. The coroners came in and they examined Zach's body and explored his room for about 2.5 hours. And he found no evidence of drugs or drug paraphernalia. They asked me 2 questions. Has Zach had any health issues? Or has he experimented with any kind of drugs, recreational drugs, or whatnot? And all I said is, nope, very fit kid. I had every known conversation I could about drugs, except for the fake pill, because I'd never heard of a fake pill. And I know vaping is all over the place, and we talked a lot about that, and edibles. I coached this team for 6 years. I know his soccer mates, his closest buddies, and their families. We vacation together. I know their team, and they're a solid, great group of boys. I don't think he's done any recreational drugs. I've never seen it in his house or in his room, and he's never come home high or drunk or any of that. There's none of that. And they said, well, we didn't find evidence of any drug use. No paraphernalia, no drugs, no baggies, no clues, no markings on his body, so we think he died from natural causes. But over the weeks, we finally put the puzzle together. An investigator found access into his phone, and then we started getting information. The toxicology confirmed about 2 months after he died that he had fentanyl in his system, and fentanyl is what killed him. So this isn't really a party death or a traditional overdose where someone struggles with addiction. And I don't want to distance myself from that because I think those are equal tragedies. This is something that's an acute story. So one of the first things that I've learned here, guys, is a new category of victim has emerged. I know you know this because you've been told this a lot, but there is a healthy path we should try to take. We eat healthy, exercise healthy, have healthy friend groups. We always need to course correct and do the right thing, do the good thing, and stay healthy. And when you get to middle school, especially, and then high school, You get to make your own decisions. What you wear, what homework to do, how to get to school, when to do homework. When it comes to uses of substances like alcohol, cigarettes, vapes, edibles, prescriptions, it may be, well, what's this all about? And if you haven't seen it yet, I guarantee you will see this, especially when you get to college. Let me try this. I will tell you right now, as a Catholic boy, my first beer, I was not 21. It was at a party at school, and I was 17 or 18, and it was like, what's this beer that everyone keeps talking about? And for those who might like beer or edibles or whatever product they're taking, it may become a recreational thing. If you continue down that slippery slope, it may become a habit, maybe you get dependent on that, and that can be a challenge. That slippery slope, guys, could last months or years, depending on the product. And in that journey, there's always an opportunity to stop, go back up to that healthy path, either because you get older or friends intervene, family intervenes. So that right there is the landscape your mom and dad had, that slippery slope landscape. You don't get this. Because of these introduction of illicit fentanyl, now we live in an era where it's one time, one line, one bomb, one pill can kill, and it's lights out. Even half the pill. One person can, for the first time, try half the pill to help them manage pain or anxiety or to focus, and it's lights out. I think this is horrifically unfair to your generation, because it is dangerous now. Instead of a slippery slope, the landscape now is more like a minefield, where you take one step in the wrong direction and you don't get second chances, and that is so unfair to your generation. So as you know, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, they track deaths and they report it, like car deaths, drownings, cancer. I downloaded data on just fentanyl deaths, and I downloaded it for 2015 and 2023. So I'm comparing these 2 years. And I call this like a growth chart, or an increase in deaths only from fentanyl. And if you look at people over the age of 19, that little white dashed bar there is an average for those ages, 19 and older. There's been a 756% increase in deaths from fentanyl, or 9-fold increase. Another way of saying this, guys, 9 times more people died from fentanyl in 2023 than there were in 2015. When you look at people younger than 19, high school age, look at that. That's almost twice of an increase in death from fentanyl. And that's only 6 years compared to all the other ages. What's going on here? As a former soccer coach, as a former service member, as a father, this upsets me and concerns me. Your generation is more impacted. It's the fastest growing victim group of any other generations or age demographics. Again, I find this unfair. So what do we need to do? Well, there's a big problem in our country right now, as Guy mentioned. Fentanyl is the leading cause of death of Americans 18 to 45. We need to up our game. We need to learn what's going on about the dangers, the deception, accessibility. We need to learn how to help each other. So, as you already heard what fentanyl is, I'm going to skip through this. It's a synthetic opioid. Started being used in the U.S. in 1968. I wanted to add one other thing. Of all the Schedule II drugs, fentanyl is the strongest of all Schedule II drugs. It's also the only Schedule II drug measured in micrograms. All the others are milligrams. Guys, that's 1,000 magnitude different. Think about a 1 pound parrot compared to a 1,000 pound grizzly bear. And when we talk fentanyl, that's a whole other level. There's another data I downloaded from CDC is in drug type, and this is just a simple mountain range kind of depiction of the different types of drugs. I highlight fentanyl in yellow, and That's heroin. So in 2014, heroin was the leading drug type that caused most deaths, and sadly to younger age people. But look what happened last year. Clearly, maybe more drug-related deaths, but fentanyl's completely overtaken everything. As Guy mentioned, fentanyl is now an adulterant in cocaine, meth, and heroin, and is the leading agent in fake pills. I also want to dig one more layer about the lethality. It's very pervasive, it's everywhere. Guy mentioned earlier, 7 out of 10 pills have the potential to be lethal. Well, did you know the DEA also reports that prescription pills sold on the street or social media, 99% of those are considered fake. 99% of pills sold on the streets are fake, and 7 out of 10 of those have the potential to be lethal. I want to add the lethality a little bit. I brought a visual aid. This is a sugar packet. And for those of you guys that hasn't seen this, please share this analogy. You guys see these sugar packets in coffee shops, restaurants, and cafes. It's pretty common for people to put 2 sugar packets in their coffee in the morning. And if I actually took 2 sugar packets and eat them right now, nothing really would happen to me. Typically, these sugar packets have 1 gram of sugar or artificial sweetener. Did you know, according to the National Institute of Health, as little as 2 sugar packets of cocaine that if consumed all at once could kill an average adult? That's not a lot of product. Just 2 packs of sugar can kill an adult if it was cocaine. But if I open the sugar packet, pour a little more than half of it out, that's how much heroin could be lethal to an average adult. If I then empty the sugar packet, touch the inside with my finger, the remaining residue, as little as 4 or 5 milligrams of fentanyl, can kill you and me if we shared it. Cocaine and heroin doesn't do that, but fentanyl does. Remember, 2 sugar packets of cocaine can kill 1 adult. 2 sugar packets of fentanyl can kill 1,000 people. It's pervasive, it's everywhere, and it's lethal. And we need to be careful what we're doing. The DEA crime labs that I've talked to, and I hear of other crime labs, they say this is the most common fake pills. The blue M30, this is representing the original oxycodone pill, the 30 milligram oxycodone. So they're just replicating it, and they're calling this Percocet or Adderall or Oxy or whatever they want you, or whatever you're asking. They'll say, yeah, that's what this is. This is the most common one. I brought another visual aid. And this is the penny. I know you guys have seen this a little bit. So here's a penny, and then here's what would approximate about 2 milligrams of a substance. If that substance was fentanyl, that would be lethal for 1 person. But here's what a blue M30 looks like next to that little penny. It's not very big. Here's what a half of one of those. Kind of looks like a little mint. This may seem innocuous, it may seem harmless, but trust me guys, this is very deadly. I put a half a pill here because it represents so many families who lost little loved ones who took only half a pill, and there was enough fentanyl to kill 3 or 4 grown adults in that half of a pill. So as Guy mentioned, if anyone's consuming prescription pills, it needs to come in a bottle like this with your name on it, and only you take it. Anywhere else, it's just not a place to get it. We just don't have the world now. We're not living in that world where we can experiment or try that. So what if you're at a party, what's it look like? If someone accidentally or intentionally takes fentanyl and they start overdosing or having effects of it, basically it makes you slow your breathing and it makes you sleepy. So a person's going to feel very tired, they're not going to respond very well, and become unconscious. They get blue lips or nails, pinpoint pupils, and they choke or have choking, gurgling, snoring sounds. That's considered one of the last symptoms. When your mom and dad were in college, they probably just told their friend, hey, you drank too much, let them sleep it off. Well, now that fentanyl's here, we can't do that. We have to make sure they're not passing out and overdosing. You need to try to wake them up. So if you see these signs, here's what you need to do. You need to try to wake them up. And if they don't wake up, call 911 right away. That's step number one. If you have naloxone, it looks like that. It comes in a box with 2 sprayers. It's no different than like using Afrin or Flonase. It's very simple, it's very effective. If no one has an opioid in them, it doesn't hurt them. Think about it like bug spray. You spray it on you. If there's bugs around, great, it works. If there are no bugs around, it doesn't do anything. Well, naloxone is if there's fentanyl around, great, it repels fentanyl. If there's no fentanyl around, don't worry about it. It doesn't hurt infants, it doesn't hurt pets. It can only help. So spray it in their nose. If nothing happens after 1 or 2 minutes, you could consider spraying the other one in the other nostril and hope that Medtex get there, because they're going to bring more Narcan on the scene. The half-life of naloxone is less than fentanyl, so it wears off, and then the fentanyl may re-engage to your opioid receptors and cause an overdose symptom again. So it's important to call 911. So another important thing is there's something called the Good Samaritan law. If you're at a party, underage drinking or consuming or whatever, please don't be afraid to call 911. Anybody, there's a law called the Good Samaritan law that protects anyone who is trying to offer help. I guarantee, ask any EMT, hey, if you go called into a party, a high school party or a college party or whatever, and there's something illegal going on or underage, whatnot, they do not care about that. They want to save a life, and you are protected. Last year, more people died from fentanyl than what this newest NFL stadium could hold. If you're a LA Chargers or Rams fan, that scares 200 people every day. It happens every 7 minutes in our country. But please know, and believe me when I tell you, you did not start this crisis, but I truly, firmly believe at the cellular level, you have the most influential power to stop it, because you're the most connected of any previous generation. Your generation, in my eyes, has more than demonstrated how to bring new progress and innovation in this world in a beautiful way. Zach has shown me that, and so has his teammates. And I know I see that with you guys. You are all unrepeatable miracles. Every choice, every day, every person matters. So I need you to learn what's going on and please share this. This is so important because it helps thousands of family members like me to turn our anguish into action. It makes our pain into purpose. And this is something that we really get inspired by, especially when you guys take action and you feel empowered. And yes, one person can make a difference. We've seen that in our country's history. One George Washington, one Abraham Lincoln, one Nelson Mandela, one little girl from Pakistan named Malala, one Martin Luther King. So who's my one here today? Please learn and share this with your friends, your family, your cousins, your athlete, your teammates, your classmates, and protect each other. You guys are our future. You are our national treasures, so please help each other. Help us help each other. Thank you so much for your respectful attention. I'm grateful to be here, and we're going to be here to do some Q&A if you guys have the opportunity or are interested in asking questions. And I'll be here as long afterwards as well. So thank you guys.